Can you talk us through the process? Like, how do you actually buy crypto for people that are interested but don't know how?
Yeah, sure. So you would open up, what we would suggest is that you open up an account with an exchange, such as BTC Markets or any of the other better known exchanges locally here to Australia. The reason why we would say go with an Australian exchange as opposed to an overseas exchange is simply because of if things go wrong, you're protected. You have a certain amount of protection under Australian consumer law as opposed to if you use an overseas one where you have even less protections. An established player. There's I think the Austrac said there's now over 400 and something registered what's called DCEs, which are digital currency exchanges. I personally know of about maybe 7, 10 max in Australia. So really do a bit of research into who it is that you're investing it with. Anyway, so once you've the exchange account itself, which will be like opening up a bank account, so you have to do some KYC, so pictured ID and proof of address, so all the standard stuff. You're then free to trade. And here's the thing that's quite interesting. There's a difference in price between each of the different exchanges, because rather than, and this is what we're used to with the likes of the ASX, where you have a centralized board and it just lists on there and you can see the price and there's a lot of transparency there. With all the different exchanges, it's just the people on that exchange that are trading that set the price. So if you've got a particularly large or a more liquid exchange, such as ourselves or any of the others, you're going to see a very competitive price point. And it's going to be Bill, trading with Bob, rather than, any kind of, BTC Markets is not in the middle of this trade. We don't insert ourselves into any of that activity. So it's what we call peer-to-peer. And you go on, if you're trying to buy, you would deposit, say, $100 into the exchange, AUD, through OSCO or through, go straight through processing payments. In it goes, you go onto the market and say, either I want to buy at market price $100 of Bitcoin, execute the trade now, and boom, there you go. Bill will buy from Bob. Or you say, okay, I will buy $100 of Bitcoin when it reaches this particular price. And so then that trade will sit on the market until it reaches that price point, and then it will execute. Then the funds will be taken out of your BTC Markets account, and the Bitcoin or whatever will be automatically in your BTC Markets account. It's held in what we call a wallet, and each of the exchanges will give you, if it's a custodial exchange, as it is with us, where we will take the custody of those assets and kind of keep a note that this is what's owned by you. What we would recommend, particularly as people get more, I suppose, experienced and put larger amounts of crypto in, is rather than rely on us or any other exchange for custody, you custody yourself and you buy what's called a digital wallet, which is like a USB stick, and you pop it inside of your computer and you transfer, or you don't have to, it's just USB, you can transfer your crypto from the exchange onto your wallet. It's all digital, and then that wallet you put in your sock drawer. And you take it, so it's not on the internet, and so it can't be hacked, it can be stolen. Yeah. And that wallet that you have, that USB stick wallet, will have loads of passcodes and all that stuff will be set up at the time that you get it, and that will be where you will keep it. So it's what we call self-custody, rather than leaving it on an exchange. I know that can be a bit daunting, I think, for some people to understand, but it's straightforward, and it's probably just because all the concepts seem a bit out there, but self-custody is really straightforward.
Well, I think that these days it's more and more important that no doubt that the exchanges are doing everything they can to protect your assets, but ultimately these computer hackers can get more and more sophisticated. I saw, not that hopefully there's not too many sort of high-level Russian hackers listening in, but I was just reading about how the feds over in the US, I think that's one of the things that's dragging down the Bitcoin price at the moment, that they recovered a bunch of money that was paid to this hacking group for malware, some sort of malware thing. I can't remember the correct exact term from it. So good to have that protection. But I think that there were two other really interesting points that you made there, which people may not really fully be aware of, is that the liquidity, or how many people in an exchange, that's one of the key drivers of the price, because you're not trading with every Bitcoin user. And I didn't actually understand that. I bought some Bitcoin a little while back and I didn't understand how that was happening, but it makes perfect sense now that talking about you guys having your own blockchain that you hold the stuff that's on your platform on. So the more users that you've got and the more volume that's happening, it means that you're more likely to get a better price on your money. Not to mention that there's probably economies of scale in their pricing of those platforms as well. But also just making sure that you're using a company that is more as accessible to you as possible, and using a legitimate platform to make sure that when you do trade, that it's as safe as possible for you as well. So I think good tips for would be crypto.
I mean, I think as well, like, this is something that, Bitcoin itself has only been around for a little over a decade. There's an awful lot more maturing to happen, both as an asset class, but also from an infrastructure side. But I think a lot of people are going to get increasingly comfortable with the idea of self-custody, the idea of looking after your assets, just as to say, popping them into your sock drawer or wherever it feels possible to you. And people are going to become very comfortable with that. It's just a question of maturing across the space. What's interesting in Australia right now, there aren't really many regulations around digital assets and cryptocurrencies, and that's an area that we feel very strongly about, and we're very much pushing for that regulation to come in. My background's in traditional finance. I'm used to being regulated almost. We're kind of one of the unusual ones that, like, please, can we get some regulation in? Because once we get that rigor, and we can then point to it and talk to our clients about it, and they can then feel the comfort of that. And I know that Senator Bragg and the committee that he has are looking at that within the Senate, hopefully before the end of this year, and we're certainly contributing to some of the work that they're doing on that. But it's important to protect Australian consumers. It's important to position Australia for the future, and just important for me as somebody who's running an exchange to get that surety to know, great, I can properly invest in this sector because I know this is now positioning Australia for the future. So I'm one of the few people who are very gung-ho and pro-regulation. Bring it on.
Well, I think that the consumer protections that are in place for traditional sort of asset classes like shares and managed funds and ETFs are at a standard in Australia, at least, that there's next to no risk for investors in terms of choosing. There is risk with every investment. If you choose the wrong investment, you're going to lose money, but it doesn't really matter if you use the ASX or a managed fund with Macquarie Bank or CBA or BT or any of those names, or any other sort of the more peripheral or smaller players. That they never actually touch your assets, and it's all held and nice and safe. If something goes wrong with them, then you're fully protected. So I'm with you on that one. I think it's something that will give people a lot of confidence and just make sure that everybody's protected.